He stood at the curb, feeling the Johannesburg sun beating down on the cracked pavement. Darius Ellington glanced at the faded green and yellow sign above the entrance, Ellie's Grill, named after his grandmother. A place that once felt like family now felt unfamiliar, like a story he couldn't quite remember how to tell. The heat rose in waves, carrying with it the scent of slow-cooked brisket, cornbread, and the faint tang of barbecue sauce, his grandmother's recipe that used to draw crowds from across the city. It had been months since he last walked through that door. Meetings, supplier contracts, late-night calls, he'd been too busy running the business to check on its soul. Rumors had started to trickle in bad reviews, quiet complaints from friends who'd always spoken the truth, murmurs that the place had lost its heart. He needed to see for himself, so he pulled the brim of his cap lower over his eyes, adjusted the sleeves of his faded black hoodie, and stepped inside. The lunch rush hit him first, a line of customers stretched to the door, workers in neon vests, college kids clutching backpacks, a young mother bouncing a restless toddler. The air was thick with chatter, the clink of silverware on plates, the low hum of a radio playing local jazz. But something was missing: a smile, a greeting, the warmth that made Ellie's more than just another diner. He stepped into line and waited, eyes scanning the room. The cashier, a lanky young man named Thabo, tapped his phone under the counter, his gaze fixed on the screen. Next to him, a girl named Zinla Newer, but with a sharp tongue and a habit of chewing gum, popped a bubble loud enough to break the spell of the jazz music. She didn't look up when she spoke. "Next," she called, her voice flat. Darius stepped forward. "Pulled pork sandwich, side of baked beans," he said, his tone steady. "That it?" she asked, her fingers dancing across the touchscreen. "Yeah, thanks," he replied. He paid in cash and stepped aside to wait. That's when he heard it. Thabo's voice, low but careless. "Another one of those walk-ins," he muttered to Zinhle. "Probably from around Hillbrow. They never tip." Zinhle laughed, her voice sharp. "Ever since they started hiring from that shelter program, it's been going downhill. I heard the owner's some rich guy, doesn't even show his face." Darius felt his chest tighten, a cold stone settling in his gut. They didn't recognize him, but that wasn't the worst part. It was the ease in their voices, the casual way they dismissed the people he'd worked so hard to lift up. The ones who deserved a second chance, the ones like him when he'd first dreamed of building something that mattered. He stood still, watching as the orders rolled out and customers shuffled past. A man in a business suit sat near the window, frowning into his coffee. A mother juggled a baby on one hip while trying to calm another child in a sticky high chair. There was no laughter, no greeting, no heart. Ellie would have shaken her head at this. Darius took a breath, fighting the urge to storm behind the counter and demand answers. Instead, he stepped forward and spoke calmly. "Actually, cancel that order," he said. Thabo barely looked up. "You sure?" "Yeah, lost my appetite." He turned, his heart heavy, and pushed through the door. The sun hit him hard, and he let it. He walked to his car and sat behind the wheel staring at the dashboard. His reflection in the rearview mirror looked tired, older than he remembered. He had built this place to honor Ellie's legacy, to give people like him a shot. But he'd let something slip. Somewhere between balancing the books and signing the paychecks, he'd stopped being present. And that absence had bred something ugly. He sat there for a long moment, watching the steady stream of customers come and go. A construction worker brushed dust from his boots. A teenage girl in uniform dug for change in her backpack. A man with tired eyes leaned against the wall, waiting for his order. This was supposed to be a home, a place where everyone mattered. Finally, he turned the key, but didn't drive away. Instead, he pulled around to the alley behind the restaurant and parked in the shade. There was a cracked window above the kitchen door. Voices drifted out, mingling with the clatter of pots and the low whine of the exhaust fan. "He probably doesn't even know half the people he hired," Thabo was saying. "Some boss, huh?" Zintley's laugh carried sharp and bitter. "Mr. Ghost, boss, that's what I call him. Got his name on the wall but never shows his face. Figures." A deep, older voice cut through the laughter. Reggie, the grill master Darius remembered hiring him fresh out of a halfway house, giving him a chance no one else would. "You all know he started this place with nothing but a rusty smoker and a prayer, right?" Reggie's voice was calm but firm. "So?" Zinnel shot back. "So watch your mouth," Reggie replied. "Some of us remember what this place used to mean." Silence fell. Darius leaned against the wall, closing his eyes. Pride warred with shame inside him. Pride for Reggie, who still carried the torch. Shame that he'd let this happen in the first place. Ellie used to say you can't plant a garden and forget to water it. He'd left these seeds untended, let weeds grow where hope should have flourished. And now it was time to weed it out. Tomorrow, he'd show up no hoodie, no disguise, just himself. And he'd see who was willing to stand with him. Because Ellie's Grill wasn't just about food. It was about people. And it always had been. And it always would be. Nam si mu m tai t v a chuang tai ba teo KHNG. The sun was already high in the sky when Darius pulled into the lot behind Ellie's Grill the next morning. He parked in his usual spot, close enough to the kitchen door that he could hear the clatter of pots and the low hum of the refrigerator. He wore his signature charcoal blazer and a clean white button-down. No hoodies today, no disguises, just the owner, here to see his people. Inside, the staff had gathered near the front, shifting awkwardly between booths and the counter. Some leaned on the backs of chairs, others crossed their arms or clutched coffee cups like lifelines. The air was heavy with anticipation and uncertainty. They'd never seen him call a staff meeting like this. They'd never seen him look so serious. Darius stepped forward, his gaze sweeping the room. Reggie stood near the kitchen pass, arms crossed, his face open but cautious. Cherise, the young cook he'd hired fresh out of culinary school, stood to the side, her eyes darting from Darius to the others. Thabo and Zinley stood together near the register, their postures defensive. Darius took a deep breath and began. "Mornin', everyone. Thanks for coming in early," he said, his voice steady but firm. "I know this isn't how we usually start the day, but we need to talk." He paused, letting the silence stretch just long enough to grab their attention. Then he continued. "Ellie's Grill isn't just a restaurant. It's a promise I made to my grandmother, a place where everyone who walked through that door felt welcome, no matter who they were or where they came from. That's why I built it. That's why we're here." He looked around, meeting each pair of eyes in turn. Some met his gaze, others looked away. "But yesterday I came in as a customer," he went on. "No name tag, no fancy title, just a guy wanting lunch. And what I saw, what I heard, it hurt. Not just because it was disrespectful, but because it means somewhere along the way I stopped showing up and I let that happen." A murmur ran through the room. Reggie shifted his weight but said nothing. Thabo looked down at the floor. Zinnel chewed her lip, eyes narrowed. "I heard people talking about this place like it was beneath them. Darius said, his tone calm but firm. Like the people we serve don't matter. Like the people who work here are just cogs in a machine. That's not what Ellie taught me. That's not what this place is about. He paused, letting the words sink in. Then he added, I'm not here to yell. I'm here to fix it. And I'm starting with myself. I let distance become absence. I let silence become neglect. That's on me. He took another breath. But respect goes both ways. And starting today, that respect comes from every single person in this room. No more shortcuts. No more excuses. Charisse raised her hand hesitantly. Mr. Ellington, she said, her voice soft but steady. I didn't know you were watching like that, but thank you for coming in. It means something. He nodded, appreciation in his eyes. Thank you, Charisse. And I want you all to know I'm going to be here more. Twice a week at minimum. Not just as a boss, but as a part of this team. We're also starting monthly staff meetings, real ones, not just quick hallway check-ins. And we're going to introduce a customer feedback program. Real feedback, not just what shows up on Yelp. A small spark of hope flickered in Reggie's eyes. He gave a subtle nod, the kind that said, finally. But, Darius continued, his tone firming, this is a two-way street. If you're here just to collect a paycheck, if you think the people who walk through that door don't matter, you're in the wrong place. And I need you to decide today if you want to stay. No shame if you don't, but don't stay here and bring this place down. Thabo shifted uncomfortably, and Zinhle crossed her arms tighter. Darius didn't flinch. He'd seen that look before, the look of people who thought they'd gotten away with something. But not anymore. I'm giving you a choice, he said. We're cleaning house, but not by firing people. We're doing it by asking each of you to choose who you want to be in this place. If you're willing to respect this team, the customers, and this community, then let's get to work. But if not, if you can't buy into that, then take today's shift and 2 weeks' pay, and I'll write you a recommendation letter. No questions asked, no drama. But you can't stay and poison the well. Silence fell again, thicker than before. Reggie's eyes glistened with quiet pride. Charisse smiled faintly. Even Thabo looked a little less defiant. Only Zinli's face stayed hard, her jaw tight. Darius let it hang for a moment, then said, You don't have to decide right now, but I want your answer by the end of the shift. He turned toward the counter and grabbed 2 folders he'd prepared the night before. One for those who wanted to stay, one for those who didn't. He set them on the counter, the choice as clear as the names on the covers. Then he stepped back, arms crossed, and let them think. Because respect couldn't be forced. It had to be chosen. And today, the people who'd chosen to stay would be the ones who'd help him rebuild Ellie's Grill into what it was meant to be, a place of second chances, of dignity, of family. Outside, the sun continued to rise, casting light through the windows and painting the faded tile floors with promise. And inside, Darius felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Darius didn't have to wait long for the first answer. Reggie, always the steady one, walked straight to the counter, picked up the folder marked Stay, and signed his name with the kind of confidence that made Darius' chest tighten with pride. You know I'm in, he said, his voice low but certain. This place gave me a shot when no one else would. I'm not about to turn my back on it now. Darius gripped his shoulder firmly. I know, Reggie. I'm glad you're here. Charisse was next. She stepped up, pen in hand, but paused, meeting Darius's eyes. "I've got a lot to learn still," she said, "but I want to learn it here." Darius nodded. "That's all I can ask for." She signed and let out a slow breath, relief and determination written across her face. The others trickled in, some quickly, others with hesitation. Thabo signed, eyes darting nervously between Darius and Reggie, as if afraid of being judged. Zinni, though, stood at the edge of the room, arms crossed, face unreadable. She hadn't moved since Darius laid down the challenge. He watched her carefully, not with anger, but with a quiet patience. She'd have to make her choice in her own time. As the shift began, the energy felt different. The kitchen hummed with the familiar clatter of pans and the sizzle of oil, but it wasn't just noise, it was alive. Reggie worked the grill like a craftsman, flipping catfish and brisket with practiced ease. Charisse prepped plates with an extra flourish of garnish, a small sign that she cared about the details. Even Thabo, who'd been on the fence, moved with a new sense of purpose, calling out orders and double-checking tickets like a man determined to prove he belonged. Darius watched from the sidelines, not looming, but present. He made a point of helping where he could, refilling coffee, wiping down counters, chatting briefly with customers. It wasn't about control, it was about being seen, being part of the team. The lunch rush hit at 12:15 p.m., sharp as always. A steady stream of regulars and newcomers filled the booths and bar stools. Darius recognized a few faces: a mechanic from the auto shop down the road, a nurse from the local clinic, even an elderly couple who'd been coming since the diner's earliest days. They all looked around with that mix of expectation and hope that told Darius they still believed in this place, even if it had slipped for a while. Then the front door swung open, and a young man in a tattered work shirt hesitated in the entryway. His eyes were wide, his hands fidgeted at his sides. Charisse caught his eye and smiled warm, real, the kind of smile that said, "Welcome," without needing to say it. The young man straightened, shoulders loosening, and made his way to the counter. Darius saw it all. He felt that old spark, the one Ellie used to talk about, that food wasn't just a meal, it was a chance to see people as they were, not just as they looked. At the counter, Zinho finally moved. She'd been standing by the soda machine, arms still folded, but something shifted in her. She uncrossed her arms, walked to the folders, and picked up the one marked "Stay." She didn't sign it right away. She turned to Darius, her face serious. "If I sign this," she said, "it's not because I'm scared to leave. It's because I want to believe in this place again." Darius met her gaze, steady. "That's all I'm asking, Zindla. A choice to believe." She nodded once, signed, and set the folder down with finality. By the time the lunch rush settled and the line thinned, the air in the diner felt lighter, more hopeful. The tension that had weighed heavy on the staff had shifted, maybe not gone completely, but at least cracked open. Darius let out a slow breath, the kind that felt like a release after a long climb. He knew they weren't done. Not by a long shot. A single day couldn't fix months of neglect or heal the wounds left by the careless words and absent leadership. But today was a start, a foundation they could build on. And for the first time in a long time, Darius believed they would. He stepped to the counter where Reggie was plating up an order. "You good?" he asked, voice low. Reggie gave him a half smile. "Yeah, boss. Feels like the old days, you know." Darius smiled back, a real one. "That's the plan." Outside, the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the parking lot. The neon sign above the diner flickered once, then held steady. Inside, the hum of voices rose and fell, blending with the clatter of dishes and the low hum of the radio playing an old blues tune. And at the heart of it all, Darius felt that old promise burning bright again that this place, Ellie's Grill, could still be a home for second chances and quiet dignity. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to carry them through the days ahead. Darius arrived early the next morning, before the sun had fully stretched its fingers across the African savanna. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of dew and earth, mingled with the distant aroma of spices and grilled meats from the market that would soon come alive. He parked his truck near the edge of the diner lot, a place where the red dust still clung to the tires and the footprints of his workers marked the ground like silent signatures. Inside, Ellie's Grill was quiet. The neon sign buzzed softly, its green glow muted in the dawn light. Darius leaned against the counter, hands wrapped around a chipped mug of coffee, and let his mind wander. He thought of the days when this place was just an idea, a dream born out of his grandmother's wisdom. Ellie had taught him that good food could fill a belly, but respect that filled a soul. Now, he wondered if he'd honored that lesson enough. He didn't have long to ponder. By 6:30 a.m., Reggie arrived, his broad frame filling the doorway. "Morning, boss," he rumbled. Darius nodded. "Morning, Reggie. Ready for the day?" Reggie cracked a grin. Born ready. One by one, the others trickled in, Charisse with her apron already tied, Thabo humming a tune from the latest hit on the local radio, Zinho carrying a notebook filled with scribbles of new recipes she wanted to try. Each one greeted Darius with a nod or a quiet "good morning," and each time he met their eyes, he felt a small but steady assurance that they were in this together. The morning rush hit just after 7. Locals and tourists alike filled the booths and counters. A mother with a baby strapped to her back ordered a plate of spiced eggs and beans. A group of construction workers in bright orange vests called for catfish sandwiches and strong coffee. The place was alive, buzzing with that old energy Darius had feared he'd lost. But beneath the hum of orders and the hiss of the grill, he watched closely. He saw how Charisse wiped down each table with care, how Reggie checked the freshness of every pot before serving, and how even Zinal, who had been his harshest critic, smiled genuinely at a young girl who'd dropped her juice. Darius knew that a culture wasn't built in a day, but brick by brick, moment by moment. At the counter, Darius spotted Isaiah, the young man from the shelter program. His shoulders were more relaxed today, his eyes brighter as he chatted with Thabo about football. Darius felt a swell of pride. This was why he'd opened the doors in the first place, to give people a shot, to remind them they mattered. Then Kendall walked in, head lowered, eyes darting like a cornered animal. He paused just inside the door, glancing around as if unsure of his welcome. Darius caught his gaze and nodded once, no words, just a gesture that said, "You're here, and that's enough." Kendall's shoulders eased. He moved behind the counter, taking his place next to Zinhli, who gave him a quick, quiet nod. No hostility, just an acknowledgement that maybe today could be different. By mid-morning, the rhythm of the diner felt almost natural. Orders flowed, laughter rose from the booths, and the smell of grilled fish and fresh bread drifted out onto the street, pulling passers-by in like a promise. During a lull, Darius called everyone together. They gathered in a loose circle near the pass-through window. He cleared his throat, the words heavy but necessary. "I want you all to know I've been listening," he said, voice steady. "Not just to the words, but to the silences. The times I wasn't here, the times you felt alone, unrecognized, that's on me." He paused, letting the weight of that admission sink in. "But I'm here now, And I'm not leaving again. We're rebuilding this place together, not just for the customers, but for us, for the people who believed in Ellie's, even when it was easier not to. Reggie shifted his weight, arms crossed but eyes warm. Charisse stood tall, her jaw set in determination. Even Kendall, who had been a ghost these past weeks, straightened his back and nodded. And Zinley, fierce, unflinching, crossed her arms, but the corner of her mouth twitched in the hint of a smile. Darius continued, "We'll make mistakes. That's part of the work. But as long as we show up every day, with respect for the food, for each other, for every person who walks through that door, we'll make this place something to be proud of." A hush fell. Then, from the back, Isaiah's voice, young but sure, rang out. "That's what I came here for," he said. "A place that feels like more than a job." His words hung in the air, like a spark catching kindling. Darius smiled, the kind that reached his eyes. "That's what I want for all of us," he said. "Let's get back to it." They broke apart, but the air felt lighter, the bond stronger. The sizzle of the grill picked up again. Plates clattered, coffee brewed, and the day rolled on. Outside, the sun climbed higher, painting the horizon in gold. Ellie's neon sign hummed with a steady glow, a beacon that felt more alive than it had in months. Darius stood behind the counter, wiping it down, eyes on the door. Every time it swung open, he felt a flicker of hope. Because every time it opened, it meant someone still believed in them and in this place. And that, he knew, was the beginning of something worth building. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the rugged street outside Ellie's grill. Darius leaned against the counter, his sleeves rolled up, sweat beating at his temples. He'd been working since before sunrise, checking orders, filling in gaps at the grill, greeting every customer like they were family. The place was humming, alive in a way it hadn't been in months, but he knew the real test wasn't over. At 5:30 p.m., Reggie came in from the back, wiping his hands on a rag. "You ready for tonight, boss?" he asked, his tone serious but tinged with hope. Darius nodded. "Yeah, Reg, I think we're as ready as we're going to be." Reggie gave a short laugh. "Good, because I heard from a buddy at the market that word's spread. People are coming tonight to see if the place is really turning around." Darius felt a jolt of nervous excitement mixed with a low current of fear. He'd spent the past few days laying the foundation, reconnecting with the staff, resetting expectations, reminding himself why he'd built this place in the first place. But a foundation was only as strong as the people who stood on it. As the dinner rush loomed, Darius gathered the team near the pass-through window. The air smelled of charred fish and slow-cooked greens, the sense of comfort. He looked at each face, Charisse, Thabo, Zinley, even Kendall, who now met his gaze without flinching. Isaiah stood off to the side, sleeves rolled, eager. "All right, family," Darius began, voice steady. "Tonight's not just another dinner rush. It's a chance to show the world and ourselves what Ellie's stands for. Respect, pride. A place where everyone matters, from the cooks to the customers." He paused, letting the words sink in. Reggie's nod was slow and certain. Charisse's eyes glistened with something that looked like gratitude. Kendall looked down, but there was no defiance, only acceptance. "We've made mistakes," Darius continued. "We've been sloppy, and that's on me too. But tonight, we leave that behind. We give them the best we've got." Zinhla stepped forward, her arms crossed, chin lifted. "You got it, boss," she said. "We're ready." The team moved like a single heartbeat after that. Orders flew in thick and fast-spiced catfish, smoky brisket, piles of seasoned greens. The clatter of pans harmonized with laughter and the low murmur of conversation. Darius worked the floor, greeting old customers by name, welcoming newcomers with the same warmth Ellie would have shown. He caught snippets of praise, a mother telling her son, "This place is just like it used to be," and a traveling salesman saying, "I haven't had a meal like this in years." At the register, Kendall called out orders with newfound confidence. When Isaiah dropped a tray, Reggie was there in a flash, helping him up, patting him on the shoulder. "Happens to the best of us," Reggie said. Isaiah grinned, embarrassment fading. Near closing, Darius noticed a familiar figure in the corner booth, a local reporter who'd written a scathing review a month before. This time, she was smiling, scribbling notes between bites of collard greens. When she stood to leave, she caught his eye and gave a small, respectful nod. Darius returned it, no words needed. At 9:00 p.m., as the last customer left and the staff began to clean up, Darius called them together one final time. The room was quiet, the smell of spices and grease heavy in the air. "You did it," he said simply. "Every one of you showed up and made this place what it's supposed to be." Charisse wiped sweat from her brow. "It felt different tonight," she said softly, "like we were part of something real again." Reggie clapped her on the back. "That's because we are." Darius smiled, pride swelling in his chest. "I'm not going to pretend everything's perfect," he said. "We've got work to do. But tonight proved to me, and I hope to all of you, that this place is worth fighting for." A silence fell, warm and full. Then Isaiah spoke up, his voice trembling but strong. "Mr. Ellington, thanks for giving us a second chance. A lot of places wouldn't." Darius met his eyes. "You earned it," he said. "All of you did." The group broke, laughter and chatter rising. Darius watched them, each one different, each one essential. He felt Ellie's presence in that moment, her wisdom alive in every gesture of respect, every smile shared, every dish served with care. He walked to the door, pausing to look back at the neon sign overhead. A single flicker, then steady light, like a promise. Outside, the African night stretched wide and star-filled. Crickets sang in the grass. The world felt open, full of possibility. Darius breathed deep, feeling a quiet joy settle in his chest. They had come back to themselves, and this time he would never let them forget why they mattered. And in that night air, he whispered more to himself than anyone else. "We're still watering, Grandma." He stepped into the darkness, ready to build the next day's sunrise.